Well, a series of tweets from President Trump causing outrage across the nation after he tells certain Democratic congresswomen to go back to the countries they came from. And now one Minnesota lawmaker is firing back. KARE 11's Heidi Wigdahl explains the fury behind the post. Hi, Heidi.
Chris, President Trump did not name the Democratic congresswomen in his tweets, but it appears he was referring to 4 freshman U.S. representatives, including Representative Ilhan Omar.
President Trump's tweets are trending once again. Sunday morning, he tweeted, quote, "So interesting to see progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe, the worst, most corrupt and inept anywhere in the world, if they even have a functioning government at all, now loudly and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came, then come back and show us how it is done? These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy to quickly work out free travel arrangements." The tweets appear to be referring to tensions between Speaker Nancy Pelosi and freshman representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, and Ilhan Omar. All 4 are U.S. citizens, and only Representative Omar was born outside the U.S. Sunday's tweets came as people celebrated Twin Cities World Refugee Day in Loring Park.
What's more American than being a congresswoman? For people like me who are also immigrants and women of color, it's frustrating to see someone who is the highest, who holds the highest position, say those kind of things about people like me.
I'm not focusing on what he's saying, I'm focusing on the reaction of AOC and Ilhan and other amazing women.
Representative Omar responded on Twitter saying, quote, "Mr. President, as members of Congress, the only country we swear an oath to is the United States, which is why we are fighting to protect it from the worst, most corrupt and inept president we have ever seen."
Now, all 4 congresswomen responded on Twitter offering strong words for the president. Trump later responded again, saying it was sad to see Democrats sticking up for the congresswomen. Rena.
All right. Thank you, Heidi.